I'm Nick, and this is a new case from Thermaltake. This is called the View 390 Air. And I gotta say, I was a little bit skeptical, but this case has proven to me that Thermaltake has really stepped up their game. So let's take a look at this really interesting curved glass fish tank, kind of not fish tank, dual chamber case. Yeah. This is the brand new Thermaltake View 390 Air. It is a new mid-tower case with a curved tempered glass panel at the top, and it is slightly tinted. As for the size of this case, it's 503mm deep, 287mm wide, and 485mm tall. To get inside, we first need to remove the tempered glass panel. There's two thumb screws at the top of the panel. There's also another one towards the bottom of the side. These are all captive thumb screws. Once you loosen those, you want to slide the panel back and you want to give it a little bit of a pop, and then you want to lift the panel up and away from the case. Be very careful because you don't want to break this curved glass panel. To get the backside off, there's a little notch on the back edge. Just put your finger in the little tab. You want to pop that top out and then lift the whole panel up and then away from the case. To remove the front panel, there are two screws in the side of the front panel. You want to remove both of those screws, and then you can pop that side panel towards you and then up and then away from the case. Then to remove the top panel, you want to put your thumb underneath the corner and then you can pop that panel up and then away from the case. There is another side panel to remove. This is for drive mounting, which I'll come back to in a moment. There's two screws holding this panel into place. Once you loosen those screws, you can pop the top corner out and then you can lift that up and then away from the case. Finally, there's another bracket inside of the case which can be removed. It has two captive thumb screws. Loosen those and lift it away from the case. As for storage, the View 390 will support up to 3 2.5-inch drives or 2 3.5-inch drives on the removable door, which we removed previously. As for case I/O, on the top panel which we removed, there's a USB Type-C port, there's a reset button, a separate microphone jack, a headphone jack, two USB Type-A ports, and a power button with a combined power light. I gotta say, I do find it confusing that Thermaltake decided to label these ports. It makes it look a little bit cheap. Thermaltake, we don't need labels on this stuff anymore. As for the wiring itself, there's a front panel block for all the lights and all the switches. There's a front panel audio cable, a USB Type-C cable, and a USB Type-A cable. For dust filtration on the View 390, there are lots of dust filters. There's a removable dust filter on the bottom of the case, as well as a dust filter on the front panel of the case. All of these panels are magnetic. There's also two dust filters on the side panel of the case as well, meaning that almost every single opening on this case has a dust filter. It supports motherboards from ITX up to ATX with back connector motherboard support. However, I didn't want to use a back connector board for this video. I just wanted to use this board here. As for air cooler support, the maximum supported height is 160mm. As for fan and radiator support, the front has two removable brackets. At the front, you can install either three 120mm fans, two 140mm fans, or two 200mm fans. I wish I had some 200mm fans for the front of this case because it would have looked awesome. As noted already, these brackets are removable and they do allow for cable pass-through and for mounting fans or a radiator on either side of this bracket. At the rear, there are two pre-installed 120mm fans, but you can install two other 120mm fans if you like. The included fans are PWM and daisy chainable. On the bottom of the case, you can install up to three 120mm fans, and the fans are sunken in, which I really like. I like that you can't see the side of the fan frames here. As for the side of the case, you can do up to a 360mm liquid cooler or a radiator, or three 120mm fans. As for power supply support, the maximum supported length is around about 260mm if you're not using SSDs. If you are using SSDs on that side door, you've got a maximum limit of 200mm. However, most power supplies sit really in that 160mm range anyway. As for GPU support in the View 390, you know what? We're not going to do that just yet because this video is brought to you by AORUS.
And the brand new AORUS Radeon 9070 XT Elite 16G. The difference between this card and a regular reference version of the card is this one will boost up to around 3100 MHz and it's got a game clock of around about 2570 MHz, which is around 170 MHz faster than the reference speed. The size of this card is 339mm, which, as you're about to find out, is just about perfect for the Thermaltake View 390 Air at its maximum GPU length. This GPU uses the wind force cooling system with RGB halos on the fans, which I think look pretty nice if you're into that kind of thing. The 9070 XT Elite also has a vapor chamber cooling system with composite copper heat pipes, although you probably wouldn't be able to tell because we haven't split this card apart, but you get the idea. Overall, this is one of the cleanest looking 9070 XTs on the market. If you're interested in this card from AORUS, there is a link to it down below in the description. Again, special thanks to Gigabyte and AORUS for sponsoring this segment of the video. Alright, back to the GPU compatibility on the View 390 Air.
If someone says AORUS one more time, I swear. As for GPU support, the maximum supported length is 420mm. However, if you're using a front radiator, that is then reduced to 390mm. The truth is, most big GPUs will fit in the View 390. There's also a bracket on the rear of the case which can be rotated if you wanted to vertically mount your graphics card. It requires you removing a bunch of the screws, rotating the bracket, and then fastening the screws back up. There's also an integrated GPU support bracket, so you don't get any sagging happening here. And the great thing about this bracket is there's so many positions for it to be mounted that you can put it basically anywhere along the edge of your graphics card, meaning if you have a smaller GPU, you're not going to have any problems with GPU support here either. With the cable management, the View 390 has excellent cable management. As you can see here, I did none of it. I just kind of put the cables in, but because this is a dual chamber case, you almost have infinite room for cable management. And when you put that sidebar back on the case, it makes it even better. Above the motherboard tray, there is also a place to mount the TT RGB plus 6-inch LCD. But I don't have one for this video, but if you wanted to install it there, you could. All right, let's put this all back together, and then we can talk a little bit about the thermals of this case. And spoiler alert, they're pretty darn good. All right, let's take a look at the thermals of the View 390 Air. What you're seeing on your screen right now is something quite interesting. The thermals are overall a little bit better when all of the panels are on, which is quite interesting, but given the design of this case, I think this makes sense. What we see with these chimney layout cases is always something kind of similar. And I've said this many times over the last few months. We're kind of at this point where all cases are designed really well, and it's very difficult to find a case that doesn't have good thermals. It has to do something extraordinary for thermals to be terrible these days. So yeah, I gotta say, good work Thermaltake, because this case really delivers on the thermals, and I kind of like how it looks, which leads me into really talking about the design of this case. I kind of mentioned this at the start of the video, but Thermaltake has really stepped up their quality control with their cases. For a few years there, I was a little bit concerned as to what Thermaltake was doing, but over the last 18 months, I think Thermaltake has really stepped it up and really focused on their quality control, especially when they're trying to think outside of the square with exotic colors like this case. It is absolutely freaking gorgeous. I gotta tell ya, video does not do it justice. It is a stunning looking case. But in terms of building in the View 390, this case is one of the easiest dual chamber cases that I've ever built with. I had no restrictions whatsoever, and this was an absolute pleasure to build with. The only thing that I really dislike about doing these massive kind of fish tank cases is RGB. It's always a pain in the butt, but to be honest, that's not Thermaltake's fault. That's more about me wanting to make something look nice for you guys. I don't really have anything to add about this case. It is overall just really good. I like it. I think you guys are really gonna like it too. The curved glass is really, really nice. Man, I just like it. I like it. I wasn't expecting to like it, but I do. It was an absolute pleasure. If you're interested in this case, it's going for around about 159 US dollars or around about 259 Aussie dollars for this version here, which, what's it called? Something dusk or whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever this awesome purple color is, I think this is the best color of all of them.
Future dusk.
Future dusk. This is an awesome color. I love it. In fact, I've put a purple light on the front of it to make it look a bit more purple, but it's not as purple as it looks in this shot here. But yeah, anyway, I like it. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Also, shout out to Gigabyte and AORUS for sponsoring the graphics card part of the video, because without them and other companies, you guys know how YouTube is right now. It's hard work.